A fugitive Colombian politician accuses President Duque of planning her assassination to cover up corruption. Russia and Mexico back a dialogue in Venezuela as their foreign ministers meet in Mexico City. And striking oil workers in Brazil insist Petrobras must belong to the people. Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo in Quito, Ecuador. This is from the south. We begin in Venezuela, where the fugitive Colombian Senator Aida Merlano, now detained in Caracas, says that President Iván Duque is trying to kill her. Merlano arrived at the Palace of Justice in Caracas at her own request to give her account of her flight from Colombia and the electoral corruption scandal in which she is accused. She said she had evidence that implicated as many as half the members of Colombia's Congress in the buying and selling of votes. Our correspondent Leonel Retamal was at the hearing and has the details.
Hola Luis, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. Acaba de terminar esta audiencia.
The hearing for the case of the Colombian senator, Aida Merlano, has just finished here in Caracas. She appeared before the judge for approximately 30 minutes. She said she escaped from Colombia and came to Venezuela because her life was in danger, and she was afraid she could be murdered. She is convinced that behind this persecution and murder attempts is President Iván Duque. And she also incriminated many figures from the Colombian political scene. Merlano declared herself innocent and claimed that all the accusations against her were aimed to cover corruption and illegal funding from private contractors to Colombian congressmen. She said she has evidence like pictures, audios, and videos to incriminate Colombian national prosecutor and other important Colombian politicians. She even said that the evidence she has could incriminate over 50% of the Colombian Congress, mainly right-wing leaders, who have been accused of corruption before. Merlano also affirmed that a long list of former Colombian presidents like Uribe and Santos were potentially implicated in these crimes. She said she feels safe despite the fact that she is detained, and she asked for the protection of the Venezuelan government, while she reaffirmed she was willing to cooperate and provide more information for the case to be solved. This hearing was requested by lawyer Aida Merlano herself, according to the Venezuelan law and with the wide presence of international media outlets, and especially the main outlets from Colombia, so a big repercussion of the case on Colombia's political developments could be expected.
We thank Leonel Retamal for that report. Moving on, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has been holding talks with his Mexican counterpart, Marcelo Ebrard, on the second stop of his Latin American tour. Russia and Mexico are keen to increase their trade, which is currently worth $2.3 billion a year, making Mexico Moscow's second trade partner in Latin America after Brazil. The two foreign ministers reasserted their support for dialogue and a peaceful solution in Venezuela, where Lavrov will meet with President Nicolás Maduro on Friday. He began his tour with a stop in Cuba on Wednesday.
We both think that a dialogue is necessary with the objectives to... But as to change any regimen, this would be an imposure of foreign models. We have spoken of, we have heard calls from Washington that there are no options. And they are threatening on using every option on the table. They are organizing the provocation. But this is not our posture. This is not the posture of our Mexican allies. We believe in dialogue, and this way all parties can have the possibility to find a solution that are a win-win situation.
In Cuba on Wednesday, the Russian foreign minister participated in a flower-placing ceremony at the tombs of José Martí, Fidel Castro, and Mariana Grajales, accompanied by his Cuban counterpart Bruno Rodriguez. The two discussed both regional and global issues and increasing political, economic, commercial, and cultural cooperation. 250 Venezuelan migrants have returned from Peru as part of their return to the homeland plan. According to authorities, many left the country due to economic hardships worsened by the U.S. blockade, and the reasons to go back are lack of job opportunities, work exploitation, and xenophobia. Almost 17,000 migrants have used the plan from several countries, including Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Panama, Peru, and Uruguay.
I wanted to find a job and to help my family in Venezuela, but that was impossible. There is a lot of xenophobia and hate. There are no jobs, and if you do find one, they'll ask you a lot of questions. My son wasn't able to go to school. It didn't meet the expectations I had.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has signed a controversial bill that could open indigenous territories to mining and agricultural exploitation. The bill to regulate mining, including oil, gas, and gas projects, as well as hydroelectric dams on indigenous reservations for the first time, will be sent to Congress this week. But leaders of most of Brazil's 300 tribes oppose mining on their reservations, saying it would not only have a devastating impact on the environment, but also wipe out their cultures. All workers in Brazil are continuing their strike against the privatizations and labor reforms promoted by the government of President Jair Bolsonaro. More in this report.
Brazil's biggest company, Petrobras, has its headquarters in this building in Rio de Janeiro. Inside, 5 leaders of the Oil Workers Union have been occupying a meeting room since last Friday. Outside, members of social movements, workers and relatives stage a vigil in support of the 5 leaders.
They are defending our country. They are the guardians of our country's sovereignty. Defending Petrobras means defending a public and democratic Petrobras.
The occupation of the meeting room, the marches around 12 states with 17,000 workers are part of the Petrobras workers' strike that started on February the 1st. Patrick Fernandes is one of the thousands of workers laid off by Petrobras after the closure of a plant in the south of the country. Workers denounce this measure as illegal, since massive layoffs without consultations with the unions is forbidden by an agreement signed between the company and the workers in 2019.
We tried to negotiate on different occasions with the public ministry and through other channels, but the company has not backed down and maintained its decision to close the fertilizer plant with a massive layoff of 1,000 workers, 1,000 families that are left with no support.
Other relatives of the laid-off workers traveled almost 900 kilometers from the south to reach Rio and are camping out near the company offices. For them, the actions to dismantle Petrobras seek to further promote the privatization of Brazil's most important company.
Petrobras belongs to us workers. We can't let something that belongs to all Brazilians be sold by the president, so that companies from other countries can profit from it. We are the ones who will suffer from the sale of Petrobras.
The strike movement has organized the sale of cooking gas at a fair price in 4 Brazilian states. It's a way of criticizing the policy of subordinating prices to the international market with no benefits for local consumers.
It is important that Petrobras serves the Brazilian people with a fair price policy, so that Brazilians are able to pay for cooking gas, gasoline and diesel, and that these prices don't push up the cost of basic goods.
According to the workers, the strike will continue until the company suspends the layoff of the workers and fulfills the collective agreement signed.
Welcome back to From the South. It has been almost a week since the United Kingdom officially left the European Union. There won't be any dramatic changes till the end of the year, the deadline for the UK to negotiate new trade agreements with its former EU members. But how will Brexit affect the Caribbean, a region that had major trade connections with the EU through the UK? To understand more on the situation, we are joined by Earl Huntley, who is a former CARICOM ambassador to Haiti and foreign affairs expert. Mr. Huntley, Huntley, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, hello, thank you for having me.
First of all, how will Brexit affect trade deals such as banana exports in the Caribbean?
Well, there are two levels. First, it is the relationship with Europe itself, with the European Union. While the Caribbean countries like St. Lucia and the Windwards exported to the UK, but is within the framework of the agreement with the EU. The Caribbean countries are part of the ACP group, who have the Cotonou agreement with the EU, which is at the moment being in the stage of renegotiation. So that relationship with the EU will continue under the terms of the new Cotonou agreement. Where Britain's absence in the EU will affect the Caribbean is that Britain in the EU was a voice for the Caribbean, so that in terms of the negotiations, we don't have the kind of support of partner that we had when Britain was there. Now that Britain is out of the EU, the second aspect is really our relationship with Britain, because as you said, bananas and other exports go to the UK. So it means that the Caribbean countries will now have to work out a new trading arrangement, new trading relationship with Britain now that it is out of the EU. And one would hope that CARICOM as a body would negotiate such an arrangement with the UK.
Now, by losing the UK as a mediator, will CARICOM nations, in your opinion, be able to yield favorable new trade deals with the EU?
But I think they would still have favorable deals because they are negotiating together with the African and Caribbean countries, although they are separate EPA agreements. But I don't think, while yes, Britain's voice would help us, but I still think that we'll be able to get a good deal out of the EU, given our experience with them and the years of partnership with the European Union. Ironically, though, our trading arrangements with the UK, the preferential arrangements that we had from many years ago, were first affected by Britain's going into the EU. And those arrangements had to be adjusted when Britain went to the EU. Now that Britain is out, it means, of course, that those trading relations now have to be readjusted, both at the EU level and with Britain.
Now, which export industries do you expect will be hardest hit by Brexit? And in overall, which CARICOM nations will likely struggle the most?
Well, St. Lucia exports bananas. St. Lucia is the only one left in the world exporting bananas to the UK, and they're struggling to maintain a hold in the market in terms of the volume of the exports that send to the EU, to Britain. But the other countries, Trinidad and Grenada, who export to the UK, I don't think they will be adversely affected if we are unable. Let me backtrack. The only way they will be adversely affected is if we are not able to get good terms of trade with the UK. And I'm expecting that, given our relationship with the UK, our relationship in the Commonwealth, that we would be able to maintain favorable terms with the UK.
Mr. Huntley, we thank you so much for your time for Telesur English.
Thank you very much.
We have been speaking with Earl Huntley, a former CARICOM ambassador to Haiti. He's also a foreign affairs expert on the implications of Brexit for the Caribbean. In Nigeria, the trial of 47 men charged under a homosexuality law has been postponed for a third time after their accusers failed to produce a witness. The men, who face 10 to 14-year jail terms if convicted, were arrested in an August 2018 police raid on a Lagos hotel. Police said they were being initiated into a gay club, but the men said they were attending a birthday party. The court in Lagos warned prosecutors that the adjournment to March 3rd would be the last one granted to them.
There's something called the proof of evidence, which they were supposed to give. What they thought they gave us as proof of evidence was not proof of evidence, which we pointed out twice. And yesterday they offered or undertook to give us the proof of evidence, which in this case must include the list of the witnesses, which we don't have, and the summary of the witness statements, which we don't have. That has not been given to us. In fact, that's probably a clear case that they don't have anything at all.
The government of Sudan has rebuffed claims by Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu that the two countries have agreed to restore diplomatic ties. Cabinet spokesperson Faisal Salih said the government has not made any such decision and intends to continue its decades-old foreign policy of having no ties with the State of Israel until it ends its occupation of Palestinian territories. On Monday, Netanyahu claimed that following a secret meeting in Uganda, head of Sudan's Sovereign Council Abdel Burhan agreed to normalize relations with Tel Aviv.
The meeting was exploratory, and during it, he did not make any comment or promises to implement or establish a diplomatic relationship. The chief of the Sovereign Council affirmed that he personally took this initiative and did not consult anyone, and that he bears full responsibility for it.
In Jamaica, residents of Clarendon Southeast will vote for a new member of parliament following the resignation of Rudyard Spencer 12 months before general elections are constitutionally due in February of 2021. On Wednesday night, Spencer told the parliament he was stepping down from representational politics with immediate effect. He served Jamaica as an MP for 18 years and was state minister in the Ministry of National Security. Prime Minister Andrew Holmes has since announced that nomination day is February 12th with the by-election on March 2nd.
The truth is, I am not being pushed out. I reach a time when I feel it's time to go. And I want to say a very, very special thank you to Andrew Holness, because I told him, Mr. Bermuda, that since that you have two fellows that are bright, and you have only one seat, I will give up one of my seats, Mr. Holness.
The Chilean police has suspended 7 officers after footage emerged showing police brutality beating up an 18-year-old man in the town of Puente Alto. The video from January 29th shows Matias Soto being chased by a policeman and then later being kicked and beaten up with a baton by other officers in front of a house. He suffered fractured ribs. Police say the officers in question would be disciplined and the incident investigated. It took place as protests against the government and police brutality started up again last week. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg are now in a technical tie in the U.S. Democratic Party's chaotic Iowa caucus, with counting still underway. With 97% of state delegates results counted, the former mayor of South Indiana, Pete Buttigieg, stands at 26.2%, while the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has amassed 26.1%. Bernie Sanders, however, has extended his popular vote lead by more than 2,500 votes. The announcement of results has been characterized by chaos, apparently caused by a failure of the results reporting application. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has announced that his government will, this month, start holding formal talks with Catalonia's government in an attempt to end a nearly year-long deadlock. He made the announcement at a news conference in Barcelona after meeting Catalan President Quim Torra. The details of the meeting have not been revealed, but speaking just before it, Torra said he would insist on Sánchez allowing a referendum for Catalonia's independence.
What President Torra and I have agreed is to hold the first meeting of this bilateral commission between the government of Spain and the government of the Generalitat of Catalonia within this month, that is to say in February.
Our correspondent Joan Ortiz brings us the details of a meeting that is considered the prelude of more definitive negotiations.
We are here at the outsides of the Generalitat Palace in Catalonia, where the Catalan president Quim Torra and the Spanish president Pedro Sánchez just met, and also where Sánchez was welcomed with utmost honors. This meeting represents a prelude to the round of negotiations between the Spanish and the Catalan authorities, which is expected to start very soon, but it's not yet clear on what date. Torra's government has stated that the goal of these negotiations would be to find a solution and mark an end to the political conflict between Spain and Catalonia. They have also stated that every subject and option should be discussed, including amnesty chances for Catalan political prisoners in Spain and the right for the people of Catalonia to self-determinate. Anyhow, just before this meeting, Madrid has issued a statement that has lowered the expectations. In the letter, Pedro Sánchez advocated for political dialogue and the restitution of institutionality, but it also mentioned some terms for the relationship with Catalonia that were very far from what Catalan pro-independence forces are demanding. Also, one of the conditions of the Catalan government for the negotiation was for the Spanish government to stop criminalizing pro-independence political activities. Sadly, this has not been the case, since Sánchez's government continues to issue arrest warrants against Catalan pro-independence leaders, supporters and activists. We will be here bringing you the details of this meeting and also the upcoming official negotiation process.
We thank John Ortiz for that report. A 19-year-old Palestinian student has been killed by Israeli security forces while protesting against the demolition of a house in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. Abu Tabik was shot in the chest when he attempted to stop the soldiers from demolishing the house of a Palestinian prisoner who Israeli authorities accuse of being a member of Hamas. The incident happened a few hours after Israeli soldiers killed a 17-year-old boy in the city of Hebron during protests against U.S. President Donald Trump's so-called Middle East plan.
They took a decision to demolish the house of Ahmed al-Kuba. Young men went out to the streets the same way they do with every demolition that takes place, and clashes started, and the Israelis started to shoot. The occupation bullets are shot towards everyone, so he was shot in his right chest.
The death toll from the new coronavirus outbreak in China has risen to 563 as scientists race against time to find a cure.
As of midnight on February 5th, the National Health Commission has received 26,302 cases treated in isolation from all provinces, regions, municipalities, and the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps. There are currently 3,859 acute cases, a total of 28,018 reported diagnosed cases of the virus, a total of 1,153 cases cured and discharged from a hospital, a total of 563 deaths, and currently altogether 24,702 suspected cases of the virus.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has praised China's efforts against the new coronavirus outbreak. Speaking during a ceremony to receive credentials from 23 ambassadors to Russia, including Beijing's new envoy, Putin said Chinese authorities have decisive and vigorous steps to combat the outbreak. He also pledged to provide any kind of assistance needed in the fight against the virus.
The Chinese leadership have made forceful and determined efforts to contain the viral outbreak. The Russian government is ready to provide any help to our Chinese friends at any time.
2 rail workers have been killed and about 30 people injured when a high-speed train derailed on Thursday near Milan in northern Italy. According to local authorities, the incident happened at 5:30 a.m. local time. Initial reports say that the locomotive engine had broken free off the rest of the train and crashed into a nearby building. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo.